Welcome. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation Municipality of Central Elgin. Today is Monday, March 17th. It's 7 p.m. here in the Central Elgin boardroom. If I could ask those present to please stand for the national anthem. The Municipality of Central Elgin acknowledges it is located on the land of the McKee Treaty that was signed by the Wyandot and Anishinaabe nations, including ancestors of Chippewas of the Thames First Nation. It is also the traditional land of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Mississauga Nation. These First Nations continue to provide ongoing stewardship of the land and waters of the Municipality of Central Elgin. Council, any disclosures of pecuniary interest, please? Seeing none, we have a delegation. We have with us Mr. Dan DeBacker. Dan, I realize things are a little different tonight because we're not in our regular location, but if you want to maybe sit at the end of the table, would that be okay?
Sure, yeah.
And the microphones are in the ceiling, so we can hear you very well, I'm told.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Sloan, Mayor Sloan, and members of council. My name is Dan DeBacker, the owner of DeBacker Farms, Inc. I just want to hand one of these out to everybody if you don't mind passing them around. Thank you. I think everybody's received one of them, maybe by my email, but I'm here tonight to discuss some issues I have had on multiple occasions when trying to approve either new bunkhouses or additions to bunkhouses on our farms. First off, I want to brief you on our wholesale farming business. In 2024, we grew, harvested, packed, and sold over 7 million pounds of perishable produce to our customers, including Loblaws and Metro Warehousing, the Toronto Food Terminal, the US, and many other small businesses. All our crops are hand-picked and packed, and it requires a lot of hands for a short period of time. Our business is very labor-intensive, although we do hire many Canadians due to the extreme seasonal nature, labor intense, and low wage. These remaining jobs are never filled by Canadians. I want all of you to understand this so I can prove why housing for offshore labor is critical for the survival of our business. Our customers continue to ask for more business, but I'm bound by the lack of housing for workers. Other municipalities and counties are gaining business because our strict bylaws in Central Elgin that do not align with the official plan and the provincial policy statement. I've gone through 3 pre-consultation meetings for housing in the last couple of years. The first time I was turned down on a request for an addition to an existing bunkhouse. I was told to hire a planner to help me move forward. The second pre-consultation meeting came 6 months or so later. We had a new plan to build a new bunkhouse on a vacant farm. My planner seemed to ask the right stuff, and after the meeting with the planning office and staff, he quit on me. I since took a year off, reached out on my own for yet another pre-consultation meeting with a new plan focused on everything that was recommended by the planning department in the previous meeting. I was told I need to submit an application for a zoning bylaw to proceed. I had everything in place for this, including the paid fees in a timely manner to have this on the March 17th council meeting, which was tonight. I stated to all that this is very time sensitive. I was told 12 days prior to this meeting that I will not make this council meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment because I now need a site plan approval application prepared, and that planning staff would not make a favorable report to council without it. I reiterated the urgency to Kevin about this to keep it in the March council meeting, but needless to say, nothing happened. I have now hired 2 engineers to progress this forward. I have been reaching out back and forth by email with Kevin and Alex. After discussions with my engineer and numerous other parties, my engineer states we do not need a site plan approval application because we are exempt, as it states in the bylaw. I've sent emails out yesterday to all council members detailing where it states that's in the bylaw. Everything being asked in the site plan approval can be backed up by permits, inspections, and compliance. I'm here tonight in hopes of having council support my concerns and work with the planning staff to do whatever it takes to get the Central Elgin bylaw to adhere to and line up with the official plan and the provincial policy statement. Kevin leans on the zoning bylaw every time, and it creates more roadblocks. This has been beyond frustrating, costly, and time-consuming. Please keep in mind that I need housing for 10 weeks per year. I'm looking for a rational approach in this matter and hoping council can help. If the planning department would recognize that bunkhouses on agricultural lands are not a dwelling, it is an accessory building for the farm as stated in the official plan and the provincial policy statement. This would eliminate even a zoning bylaw amendment that I'm working on now. I should only need building permits to proceed with my plans, just like building a barn or a shed. Building permits and inspections would address all issues and ensure we are compliant with all requirements. Although it may not help this project I'm working on, I'm here to hopefully make things easier and less costly the next time I or any other farmer plan to build bunkhouse accommodations. So what I'm here for is this: aligning the zoning bylaws with the official plan and provincial policy statement. This would allow a much easier process with planning. Adhere to the provincial planning statement that housing for workers is considered an agricultural use, which would allow the property to stay zoned agricultural. Understand our concerns to approve bunkhouses in a timely manner. And please pressure the planning office to have my application heard in the April council meeting and receive approval so this can move forward as soon as possible. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. If there's any questions or comments, I try to help answer.
Thanks, Dan. Questions or comments from council? Councillor?
Thank you. So thank you for being here. I think having you speak to us all like this makes such a big difference. I guess to Carrie, because we don't have Kevin here.
Maybe to Steve?
Or to Steve, that would be super. So my understanding from some of the emails we looked at here was that there were problems with site plan approval being asked for the building in the first place, which really shouldn't be. If something is wrong with this application right now, is there something we can do to backtrack and move it forward again properly in a more expedited way? Is there really a reason why we need to wait until the April meeting?
Steve, you there?
Yeah, thank you, council. So what I understand that Kevin did receive the zoning bylaw amendment application. What I understand, there was some technical matters that needed to be addressed, both by Kevin and the municipality as well regarding servicing and site plan. I understand now that the application is received, it's being reviewed, and once it's deemed complete, then it will proceed to the next or closest council meeting. Thank you.
We have one on the 24th.
So it requires a public meeting and there's statutory notice requirements.
That's the answer.
Thank you. So
Sorry.
thank you. So if I may ask follow up to that, then if the technicalities that are slowing this down are site plan matters, site plan isn't something that all municipalities enforce fully across all parts of their municipality? Is that something that we can explore changing so that in the future we don't come up against this for agricultural housing?
Council moving forward can look at different options. Unfortunately, I'm not the one dealing with this particular file. So as far as the site plan goes and the servicing, I think the municipality would have to speak on that.
Brooks?
Yeah, sure. So, well, site plan approval isn't necessarily a planning requirement of this application. There are a number of matters that do need to be addressed, including water servicing. If you look at the guidelines and requirements of the health unit, they require water servicing, laundry facilities, in these accommodations. So the application is for a total of 7 trailers.
6. 6.
Okay, which I believe from my reading would accommodate approximately 50 seasonal workers at once. So the municipality wants to, while the site plan isn't necessarily required, we do want to see many aspects of what a site plan would require. Access, we want to make sure that the fire department has access back there. We want to ensure that they have adequate water supply for the seasonal workers who, are living in these quarters for however long that lasts for. So if Mr. DeBacker's engineers can get moving on some of these requirements, we can happily, we would like to expedite this application as quickly as possible in order to accommodate Mr. DeBacker. And, I think through the process, you're probably looking at 3 council meetings to get through the process, which would probably, if we can get everything in order expeditiously, might grant you a building permit by later in the summer.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry. Thank you. When do you need it?
Now, the problem I'm up against is it takes 4 to 5 months to approve seasonal help for the building. It has to be inspected from the St. Thomas Public Health Unit before they can approve people. So I was looking at 2 weeks, and I know that's not going to happen. I understand all that, but I thought if we could have had it through tonight's meeting, all these other things, as far as the water goes, obviously we're going to make sure there's water. Every time we go to get a permit, it'll address all these same things. When I go to put a new building, we're going to address all these same things. I just thought there was such a simpler way of doing this. It's the history that I've dealt with this for years and just keep giving up. But this time it's affecting my business. So I want to keep motoring along. That's all. But I know what you guys are up against. It's just, I wanted it addressed. That's all, just so people understand.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair. And also, I don't know, when's the meeting for April?
April the 14th or 12th, whichever, sorry. The 14th.
Okay, so the 14th. Surely we could do something to expedite this for this season.
Yeah, the
water, I do have an engineer working on the water. It's supposed to be here within a week. To address this even further though, although there's 6 buildings going on it, I'm only requiring 1 at a time. It could be 10 years down the road before the 6th one is built. There's sufficient water, there's sufficient everything there. All the services are right at the site. And it just seems silly to me that I can't.
Your building, is that correct?
No.
If you bring in 6 trailers, do you need a building permit?
Yes, I need multiple things. It's crazy what I'm seeming to have to go through for 10 weeks is what the problem is. And I just got to follow the same guidelines as building a house for 4 seasons, right? But anyway, there's a lot involved, and then to get to this stage has taken me 3 years now working on this. And yeah, majority of it's my fault. I keep backing off. If I would have kept at it the first time, I would be where I needed to be, but you get frustrated and give up.
Mayor, Dan, how many trailers do you need this year?
This is the one.
So we could probably, I'm looking at Jeff right now, that like 1 trailer to get that through to help you out this year would probably happen faster than 6. Jeff?
I don't believe that one trailer would happen any quicker than 6 trailers. You know, we can run both processes concurrently through the zoning process. I think it would be advantageous to Mr. DeBacker to actually apply for 6 so that he doesn't have to go through this again when he wants to add a second or third, fourth, fifth, sixth trailer. He won't have to go through another zoning amendment. So this will provide him the ability to, you know, fix the site-specific zoning on his property to allow for the future construction of trailers where we'd only need to go and apply for a building permit should he wish to add to it up to a total of 6 trailers.
Sorry, I have switched down to 3 in the last week only to eliminate some, like I was gonna be over the 10,000 liters of sewage per day, and just that included the Minister of Environment getting involved and doing so many more things. Just cause it's a 147 acre parcel and I'm allowed 10,000 liters, no different than a quarter acre parcel, so.
Mr. Craig has his hand up, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's my understanding that staff will have a report for the April meeting, and then a public meeting will be in May. Thank you.
When are you expecting your folks?
Well, what I'm gonna try to do is try to, yeah, I don't know, I got to figure it out. They're supposed to come in August, which is great. Right, that's my latest people, and they leave at the end of September. They're only here for 2 months at the most, this group. But yeah, we'll try to make that work. Sorry.
One sec, sorry, Councillor Graham.
I think we need to be careful in making sure that we're ensuring that our procedures are followed so that we're not setting a precedent here for expediting something that doesn't follow our policies and procedures. I think it's extremely unfortunate that you ran up against some roadblocks and then kind of dropped off and backed off from it, for sure. And obviously everybody loves DeBackers, right? We know that, but I think from a municipal standpoint, we need to be very responsible with our policies and procedures and that we're following the steps that are required.
DeBacker.
My main thing on this is trying to get the zoning bylaw to align with everything so we can eliminate, like the next time, whenever this occurs. I'm not here to try to change rules in that sense. It's to, every time I see Kevin, it doesn't align with the zoning bylaw. I have no idea what that means. When I look at the official plan and I look at the provincial policy that we're supposed to be aligned with, it all addresses things in my favor, right? Makes things sound simple, but Kevin comes back at the zoning bylaw, it doesn't align with it, we have to go through all this. That's what I'm here for, to align it with the province, which I think we're supposed to do. I don't know this for sure.
Thank you. Carrie, then Councillor Griffin.
Through your worship, I think, Mr. DeBacker, what we can do is take those concerns, understand from a policy decision, so whether that's an OPA amendment, as another policy type of framework that we can make sure all aligns. We are redoing our zoning bylaw, but I think from what I understand, it needs to align to the higher policy, which is the official plan, which then aligns to the province. So I would suggest that we meet with Mr. DeBacker as a staff group, try to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And so we can go through this process as well as we can for your own individual application. However, I think following this, Mr. Brooks, and I'll speak with the planning office to find out what policy work needs to do, so we can do that either concurrently or bring something forward for council for consideration.
So on that, Dan, we'll have it at the April meeting. And second of all, we'll have Carrie will meet with, put a meeting forward for you and to discuss. So we've got two avenues. And then the third one is to make sure that for 2026, we understand exactly what our options are. So you don't have to be in the time restraint, though it does sound like we should be able to do something for August. I mean, just from what I'm hearing, right? Is that fair?
And again, it's a public, sorry, and it is a public process. So this is why we have to follow the Planning Act. And so again, we can't, the reality is of a planning process, it goes through a public meeting, we receive comments from the public. So should there be minimal comments or concerns from the public, then absolutely should go through smoothly. Again, we don't want to preempt this process because that's we don't know what type of comments will be coming through. I just want to make sure that everyone is clear, and then the council will make an informed decision at that time.
Appreciate everybody's time. Sorry it took longer than it should.
No, and please keep us posted. I mean, we appreciate your outreach and I think it's an interesting, well, one that we all have interest in and would like to know how it goes forward.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
You want to stay or do you want me to walk you out?
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's so often. Okay, follow me.
Second. What's that?
Yeah.
You've got, just remember everything's on.
I was being resolved.
This is true.
Welcome back. If I could get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes from the previous minutes, please. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Griffin.
Here's how the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Council Person, that the minutes for the regular meeting of council dated Monday, February 10th, 2025 be adopted.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Correspondence first requiring act.
Here, should we not be getting his vote?
We're going to call the vote.
We have to call the vote. Councillor Connors has to turn.
Councillor Connors, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can, sir.
We're going to have to call the votes because we can't see you. So we're going to go to that vote again.
So he can just put his hand up then.
You can just put your hand up. So we're good for that, I think.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to correspondence requiring action. Belmont Library Historical Sign. If I could get a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bachman, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Slow, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the request for the installation of a historical information sign at the Belmont Library be approved per the submitted concept from the Belmont Historical Society.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, and that's carried. Requiring, correspondence number 2 is a letter from Sherry Trowell, the acting president of the Port Stanley Legion, regarding dedicated parking spots. Excuse me, could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Graham. Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Slow, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the request from the Port Stanley Legion for consideration of dedicated parking spaces being allocated for Legion patrons be denied.
Questions or comments, please? Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. So I had 2 concerns about this, and one of them was the precedent that giving these parking spots would create for other businesses wanting similar, and how much public use space we should be giving at no cost to businesses for their exclusive use, to the deprivation of our public. And then the other question is, how would this even be enforced? Like, if we were to say these are Legion spots, then does it become a problem for our bylaw enforcement to go into the Legion and see whether it's someone whose car is there, or what do those things look like? And I think both of those are really unreasonable things for us to go forward with.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Councillor Graham.
So I don't think it's a matter of, just to comment on the enforcement side of it, I don't think it's a matter of enforcement, just like we don't enforce the Riva parking spots that are designated for Riva in the parking lot. Because no one goes into Riva and it says, are you actually eating here? So that to me is a kind of a non-point, but you know, they are asking for quite a few. I would say that if we could take even the ones that are along the Legion parking lot, or further down from the Legion on the west side, and even some of them, because they are having, obviously from the letter, if everyone read it, they are having problems with people that struggle with mobility issues. And they can't have certain events there because of the lack of parking, specifically during the summer. I mean, the Legion is, you know, it's something that supports our community. I don't think it's out of what's the word I'm looking for? Alignment with supporting them. You know, do we need to provide 18 different spaces? I think that's a bit much. But possibly the 5 on the west side and 4 or so, or 3 or 4 on the east side of Carlow would be something that would help the veterans and the elderly that go there on a regular basis.
If I may just comment, I think it was 2 years ago that we made that lot free. It had been paid for before we became council. That's one piece. Also, we do have other businesses in Port that are having troubles with parking. It's not a unique problem to the Legion. Be it the theater, be it other places where there's elderly people coming. I'm happy to ask staff for a report on a drop-off zone or something like that, or see how that works out. But I'm not willing to support that number of parking spaces, as I think it sets a precedent. Councillor Bachman.
Is there a consideration to have maybe 3 or 4 handicap reserve spots? That would prevent a lot of the people who are using the beaches area from using those spots.
So there are handicap spots.
How many are there?
I don't know. Mr. Brooks might know.
2?
I don't have the number.
Well, okay, if there's 2, even 3, we could expand that to 5 or 6. Only because I understand the Legion does have senior members. Again, I wouldn't support that large number of parking because, as was identified, there's nothing stopping anybody who wants to use the beach from taking up those spots for the entire day. Right? And enforcement or not, they're gonna do it. They have for years, right? And that would be, I think, the only way to stop them is to have an identified handicap parking spot. Because then if you're parked there for the day, you ain't staying there without a big fine.
And the deputy mayor and then Councillor Griffin. Thank you, Councillor Bachman.
I agree with Councillor Bachman. We should look at handicap spots or wheelchair spots, because that seemed to be in the report from the Legion. That seemed to be their biggest concern was folks with mobility issues getting to the Legion, and that makes enforcement much easier with those spots being designated.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, just one other question. How does Riva how do they police their spots?
There's no
Does anybody
enforcement.
know? There's no enforcement. Okay.
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Brooks?
The, I believe the Riva spots, reside on property leased by Riva and not on public property. So that's where the situation differs.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Griffin?
Thank you, through you. I can't help thinking that, although I agree that if it's a sincere accessibility issue, that's something we're thinking about. If anything, having a drop-off point feels like it would make more sense than something across the street for that mobility purpose. And even if we were entertaining that because it's an accessibility issue, we'd like to designate more accessibility spots. If we're doing that specifically to benefit the Legion, then at what point would it be useful to every single business on the main street for us to designate a few mobility things directly in front of their doors? And then eventually we have no useful parking. Like, it's not meant to be for businesses. It's meant to be for the public. And the Legion does care for the public, but so do we. Our mandate is to take care of the public as well. And so we should be keeping spots for the public to use.
Councillor Graham?
The problem with the drop-off zone is that you can't drop yourself off if you have mobility issues, and there's a lot of people that are coming down there, elderly people that come down there as a single, so they can't just have a drop-off zone of dropping themselves off. But I would be all for Councillor Bachman's idea to designate a few more spots for handicap parking,
Sure.
disabled parking, sorry.
Accessible, actually.
Accessible.
Thank you. So Councillor or Deputy Mayor, did you want to add something?
Through you, Mayor, I'm just wondering, when you're looking at certain industry, like not industries, but places, if they historically have folks that are more, need more accessible parking, is there something that guides the municipality to support that? Like, to me, it makes sense that the Legion would require that with veterans and patrons.
No.
Through the deputy mayor to council, it's been a while since I looked at the legislation, but there are certain requirements as it relates to parking for site plan requirements and for normal parking, on-street parking. It's a little bit of a different manner. So I would, if council is leaning towards additional accessibility spaces, I would encourage you to send it back to staff to do a report, just so we can be in alignment with the proper legislation, that we identify areas that may be appropriate, recognizing that accessible parking can be enforced in accordance with the laws, and the OPP do help with that.
Okay, do you want to do also, we could just do the request from Port Stanley Legion for consideration dedicated parking spaces being allocated for Legion patrons be denied, and report back to staff for next steps before it coming or something? Is that something we could?
I don't think that's enough to.
Well,
Why don't we just
someone else for
defer with the staff report coming back regarding
Defer it to the staff
accessibility? What's that?
Defer it to a report.
Defer
back.
this motion
Staff report.
until staff come back with a report
I'll
for
defer.
accessibility?
If I was member of council, I would perhaps place an amendment requesting that staff report back on additional accessible parking availability for the Legion.
Fine.
Hey, Mayor Sloan.
Yes, sir.
Through you, I think we're setting a precedent here where everybody's gonna start coming back to us all the time. And then there's a roadway right there that they can use for their accessibility issues. If they care about their people so much, if a person can't walk, but they can drive there, they could have a valet system to go and park the cars. I just don't think we have to look at this at all. People, if they wanna come and drink, to have a good time, they'll pay to park. I don't agree with this at all.
I think Councillor Watson, you can call the vote. You can call the vote as requested.
So first you need an amendment on the floor,
But
and
if he
then,
wants it the way it is right now, he doesn't.
oh, sure, okay.
So.
So if you're asking for this to be voted on as it is that your request?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't support this letter.
Okay.
So keeping it the way it is, that's what I'm supporting.
Okay.
Right?
You currently have a motion on the.
And have a mover and a seconder.
And you have a mover and seconder.
Okay, well then I'll call the vote. Oh,
What do we,
So that the request be denied.
okay, that's not the one that I was moving.
No,
That's
we
not
have to do that
technically to
after.
prevent staff like that and giving information about accessible
Make another
parking,
motion after.
but it means that for sure we're not designating as Legion.
We're denying the 18 spots.
yes. Okay, so all clear?
No.
Motion on.
Sorry. Is it the motion that-
From the Port Stanley Legion for consideration of dedicated parking spaces being allocated for Legion patrons be denied.
Okay,
It's 18 spots.
all right.
Got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed?
We're denied.
Sorry, I didn't.
Should we try it again?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're voting that the request for 18 spots be denied.
Okay.
All those in favor of denying the request? Opposed? Motion carried. Now, the deputy mayor or Councillor Graham wish to have an amendment or is that not what they could do now?
No, it would be a separate motion. but
Except
okay.
they want to make a separate motion, that something be done with regard to accessibility. You could see if that would,
Delaney, have you written that up?
oh,
Can you say that first, please?
well, just one moment before I lose the meeting. Ms. Leach, would you read the motion, please?
That staff be directed to investigate and report back regarding additional dedicated accessible parking spaces for Port Stanley Legion patrons.
Now, I think you'll need a.
Yeah. I'm just
Sure.
going through you. I don't know that it's just for the Legion, it's correct? It's accessible spaces for everybody.
In proximity, is it about the location?
Yes.
In proximity. Just so Jeff is clear. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Looks like he's at the location.
You may need to reread it if you've changed it before.
Yes, please.
That staff be directed to investigate and report back regarding additional accessible parking spaces in Port Stanley in proximity to the Legion.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor? Councillor Graham? So you've read it, we can now get into discussion on it.
Thank you.
Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. So through you, my concern again with this is that although I understand that this is more enforceable, we're still in a position where we're making a decision specifically to do something that supports a business rather than to support the general public use. And I mean, I know we routinely fill that parking lot with people who will throw their kids in a wagon and walk down to the beach, and it's good free parking use. And to deliberately create spots that stop people from doing that so that people can go drink at the Legion and the Legion benefits from that money rather than the public benefiting from the beaches that we invest heavily in making accessible to them and want them to go use and enjoy. I would rather see us trying to create possibility for our own spaces and services rather than making them sort of exclusively useful for business.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
The Legion is one of those community partners that really provide and do a lot for the community. So there's a little give and take that goes on there. So I guess that's what I'm gonna say on that. There's been a lot of changes in Port Stanley and we've done a lot. There's also a lot of growth. Like the DOC building sat empty for a very long time. Now it's a very vibrant area. So there's been changes that have happened. So I think sometimes we have to make some changes to support.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councillor Griffin?
Thank you. Through you, I do recognize that the Legion does excellent work for the community. I also recognize that any not-for-profit organization has a mandate And I believe the last time I read the back of the Poppy box, the mandate was, and I won't have it word for word, but it was roughly to support services that benefit veterans and senior citizens. And those are good things and things our community needs. But we serve an entire community that's got old folks, young folks, working folks, parents, singles. We have so many things that are more than just veterans and seniors, and we have the power to decide to invest in services that are for more than just those things. And for us to decide that what we are going to do is because they can do good things for our community, we're going to favor their business. We are favoring their mandate over our own mandate.
I'm just going to quickly say that also we did make the parking there free as of 2 years ago, across from the Legion. Councillor Bachman.
Looking at this from an accessibility point of view, being on the accessibility board there, I'm all in favor of getting more accessible parking spots. The baby boomers are in a position right now where they are in their 70s and 80s and do need help. I've taken my parents to the Port Stanley Theater, and there's very little accessibility parking around there. I think there might only be 2 or 3 that I'm aware of in that area. So granting even 3 or 4 spots, irregardless of the Legion's commitment to the Port Stanley, just giving 3 or 4 more accessibility spots to the downtown core of Port Stanley, I think aids in the aging population.
Thank you, sir. Deputy.
Through you, Mayor, I believe we owe a lot to our veterans too. So in order to, I believe we owe it to them to support them.
Can
We call the vote?
Sure. We have a mover and we have a seconder. I think everyone realizes. Do you want to read it one more time since it's been a bit?
Reads moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Graham, that staff be directed to investigate and report back regarding additional accessible parking spaces in Port Stanley in proximity to the Legion.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Moving on, number 3, Governance Committee meeting minutes. Governance Committee, can I get a move? Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for item 3, Governance Committee meeting minutes, please? Deputy Mayor. Councillor Connors.
Mayor Stone, the motion reads moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Carnes, that the minutes of the Governance Committee meeting dated February 18, 2025 be received.
All those, sorry, any questions or comments?
Does this include the ANDVET or the SC Consulting, or is that a separate motion? Sorry to treat you.
Sure. I thought it was on here.
That direction appears later on in the agenda.
Okay.
Further on.
In closed session. For the actual agreement.
So this is just for,
Sorry, I'm reading from our agenda.
No, sorry, no, this was the actual, they don't have to receive the minutes, this is just the recommendation coming out of the governance committee.
that the Governance Committee recommend the appointment of SC Consulting as Integrity Commissioner, that staff be directed to negotiate a service contract with SC Consulting for council consideration and approval at this meeting dated March 17th. Yeah.
That's what we're covering now.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I ask some questions about it?
Yeah. Mover and seconder. Yes, I do.
Thank you. So I'm really glad to see that we got some proposals that were more to everyone's satisfaction and that we have something we can move forward with here. What is our action plan for any complaints that have arisen and expired in the time where we didn't have an integrity commissioner? Is that something that will be included in this contract that she will take care of, or how do we handle that?
Thank you, Ms. Hurd.
Through the mayor to members of council, I would suggest that if council chooses to approve the appointment bylaw next Monday, that we include any retroactivity to January 1st.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. SE 1025, special events application, Great Waterfront Trail. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bachman. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Councilor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report SE 125 regarding Great Waterfront Trail Adventure Port Stanley be received as information, and that the special events permit be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. SE 0225, mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Watson, that the special events permit be approved for Canadale Nurseries spring kickoff event, subject to the conditions of it.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. SE 0325, mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Griffin, thank you.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Griffin, that the special events permit be approved for the QAMPA beach soccer tournament event, subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And I need a mover and a seconder for Finance Committee, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Watson, that the minutes for the Finance Committee meeting dated Monday, February 24th, 2024, Monday, March 3rd, 2025, which will be 2025, and Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 be received.
Questions or comments? Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I was concerned looking at the March 4th meeting to see that one of the things that comes up in the minutes is direction to staff to look at using boundary settlement money to remedy water and wastewater costs. And that's concerning to me because although I know we have many members of the public frustrated with those costs, not all of our public uses our water and wastewater services. So the suggestion that we might do that would amount to taking settlement money that was meant for the whole municipality and for an issue that was not specific to water and wastewater, and giving that financial benefit only to members of the public in built-up areas and using our water services. And I would hope that we could find a way to better serve the community more broadly, rather than only putting it into those pockets.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Report, Central Elgin Planning Office, CEP 0625, 8982 Yarmouth Center Road. Mover to seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Councillor Watson.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Watson, that report CEP 625, consent application for 8982 Yarmouth Center Road be received for information, and that the consent application be supported subject to the conditions as outlined.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. CEP 0725-43847 Ferguson Line. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Watson, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor's on the motion reads, moved by Councilor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report CEP 725 regarding consent application 43847 Ferguson Line be received for information, and that the consent application be supported subject to the conditions as outlined, and that support be provided to the County of Elgin Land Division Committee for consideration.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. CEP 0825-43865 Ferguson Line, mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Bachman, that report CEP 825 regarding consent application 43865 Ferguson Line be received for information, that the consent application be supported subject to the conditions as outlined, and that support be provided to the County of Elgin Land Division Committee for consideration.
Questions or comments?
One quick one.
Sure.
I'm very happy to see this drainage issue be getting resolved and we're finally moving on. Thank you very much to Jeff and his staff for all the work they put in getting this resolved.
Not quite there yet.
Not quite here. This
You're
is
excited.
jumping ahead, I think. This is Joyce Ferguson, Ferguson Line.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I'm ahead. Thanks for the.
I do it all the time. Don't worry about it, Dave. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Now, item C, Director of Infrastructure and Community Services, ICS 0925, a request for tenure, 7th Avenue drain. I need a mover and I need a seconder.
I know who wants to.
Councillor
I was gonna
Bachman
say.
and Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Therefore, the motion reads, moved by Councilor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the tender of the Belmont excavating for the 7th Avenue drain in the amount of $226,360 with all applicable taxes be accepted. And that the municipality's contribution of $47,570 for the 7th Avenue drain be funded from the 2025 roads operating.
Thank you. Councillor Bachman.
Once again, thank you to Jeff and his staff for all the work they put into this drainage application and to get this finally moving forward. The school and the people of the town of Belmont will be anxiously awaiting to see any shovel go in the ground up there. So this is a very positive move. And I'd like to thank Jeff and his staff for all the work they've done.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? We're at full speed ahead with our school, are we?
This is step one.
Okay. Well, good news so far. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. ICS 1025, bridge load restrictions, mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sullivan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Watson, that the report ICS 1025 regarding bridge load restrictions be received for information and that bylaw number 2928 be presented for consideration.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. ICS 1225, East Road pedestrian crossing. Mover and a seconder. Please. Councillor Bachman. Councillor Griffin.
Mayor Sullivan, the motion reads, moved by Councilor Bachman, seconded by Councilor Griffin, that invoice number 0021206 from the County of Elgin for the construction of a sidewalk on East Road to accommodate the county pedestrian crossing be declined.
Councillor.
Thank you. Yes, I seconded that so that we could get into discussion about it. So obviously, we never agreed to $19,000 and I see that as problematic, but I think it's also important for us to recognize that the motion that originally came to Elgin County about doing the work in the first place was moved by one of our representatives from Central Elgin, Deputy Mayor Noble, and did commit to $10,000. And I do think it's fair and reasonable for the county to believe that when we send delegates from our municipalities to sit at county, that to some extent they are addressing matters from the perspectives of our municipalities. So I don't know if it would be fair for us to decline 10,000, considering that there was one of our own councillors that suggested that. And maybe it would be more fair for us to pay 10,000 rather than declining.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to decline? Opposed? Thank you. One ICS 1325 MTO expropriation of lands at Highway 3 and Wellington Road. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Watson, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Sullivan, the motion reads, moved by Councilor Watson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that report ICS 1325 regarding MTO expropriation of lands at Highway 3 and Wellington Road be received for information.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Director of Financial Services, Statement of Remuneration Expenses for Council Members. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Griffin, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sullivan, the motion reads, moved by Councilor Griffin, seconded by Councilor Watson, that report DFS 225, 2024 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses for Council Members be received for information.
Any questions or comments? Pretty straightforward. It's all been, everyone's had a look. Sounds good. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Bylaws, need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bachman, thank you.
Mayor Sullivan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councilor Bachman, that bylaw 2900, municipal drain 7th Avenue be read a third time and passed.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Graham, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noble, seconded by Councillor Graham, that bylaws 2928 and 2025-22 be read a first time and passed.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Good, carried. Motion, notice of motion. We have one for the support for Canadian Ontario government response. It's from Councillor Griffin. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Griffin?
Not yet, no, I guess I do.
Councillor Bachman, okay. I don't think so either.
No, but would you like me to just say anything about it?
It's up to you.
So I initially reached out to Carrie wanting to bring a motion to revisit our procurement to explore whether we had to give equal favor to American business or not, and whether we could actively look to do Canadian business exclusively. Apparently, although there have been many municipalities investigating this, one of the pieces of it has been that the way that our legislation is written, there is a mandative requirement on some of our pieces of non-bias. And so a number of municipalities have been bringing motions that are asking for a lot of things from the government, which focus around our indemnity to change our procurement to do these things so that we can be supportive of our higher level government.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the notice of motion? Opposed? And we have a second one up here with respect to the transition to edible planting and community garden program. Again, Councillor Griffin, seconder. Councillor Bachman. Go ahead. You're welcome.
So I sent this in the last week, and Mr. Brooks and I talked a little bit today. And at the time, having talked a bit with his staff while he was on vacation, I believed that we had not yet ordered all of the plants that we were going to need for some of these gardens. And it sounds as though some of these plants are already ordered and underway. Now, we have fortunately had one of our local nurseries offer to work with us to try and help us get started into some things that we would need to and to contribute toward it. And Mr. Brooks suggested that maybe instead of doing all gardens, we start with a few key gardens as starting points and see what that looks like for future. Obviously, I'd rather that we could do a larger, hit the ground running than just a few, but if Mr. Brooks thinks that's appropriate and we have some nursery support to help us replace plants that have already been ordered, I think that would still be worth doing. Do you want to speak to it at all, Mr. Brooks?
Sure. So staff would recommend, if this is something that the council does want to consider, that staff would come back with a report in April to outline the potential for a pilot project of some sort, small scale meetings that could accommodate this request potentially with feedback from the health unit, potential volunteers, that sort of thing, to see what could be done this year. I wouldn't suggest any kind of immediate overhaul of any of our existing plantings, but the potential could be there to add in some very small scale things to as a pilot project for 2025.
Yeah, thank you. So we've got here immediately transition. So I think on this one, we should have a vote.
Yeah,
Can we amend it?
amending the motion?
Or refer it to staff.
What are the options?
So council can refer it to staff asking for a report back in regards to a pilot project. That could be an amendment. You could vote on this and then do a separate motion. Those are, or just vote on it completely.
Okay. Well, let's vote on it and see about an amendment afterwards. How's that sound?
Is it easier to amend the motion before we vote on it rather than?
Well, it's a notice of motion. It's been brought forward by you. You have a seconder. I don't know that you have any other support. Councillor Graham, are you?
So I'm just wondering, maybe to the CAO, if we can just amend this to take out the immediately transition part, and basically say what Jeff said, but amend this motion as it stands, basically, rather than do two different.
So delete the 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, yeah, and just on that, but you've got a municipality, correct me if I'm wrong, have you done this before? Okay, so for the first time, and you're asking them to change direction in March, for something that will change ornamental floral plantings to edible garden plantings in municipal parks and public spaces. So that seems like kind of a large request to me. Would that be fair, to comment on that, Ms. Hurd?
Sure, from what I understand, Councillor Graham would suggest deleting that paragraph in its entirety, so then the motion then would read report back in regards to a pilot project.
Okay, because sometimes we hear staff are busy, and I don't know if this is something that we've got time for this year, but that's up to you. You're okay to take that out?
Due respect, staff are also looking into what to do with $15 million for only part of our community for water. So I'm sure staff can sometimes.
Are they looking into that? Sorry, let's clarify that.
I think
Through
it's
the
important for
mayor.
council to decide by vote.
To
if
be
they would
clear,
like-
the finance committee never did provide direction to staff to look into that.
Why is that in the minutes?
I don't know what it's in the minutes. I don't know that there was any direction given. You were there. Councillor Bachman was there.
15 million has been decided.
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is we ask staff to look into an awful lot of things and
Councillor Graham.
it's.
I'd make a request that we amend the motion to get rid of therefore be it resolved, section 4, and continue on with section 5, the staff report back.
And then add the garden plots and the edible gardens into that same paragraph together.
Yeah, that staff is going to report back to council with recommendations for garden plantings in municipal parks and public spaces.
Put lots of good signage on it.
Just a second. Sorry, is Ms. Leach?
Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Sure, I'll second that.
Yes, yes, please.
So the amendment would be moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Griffin. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to report back to council with recommendations for establishing a long-term community garden plot program in municipal parks, including potential partnerships, funding opportunities, and best practices for implementation, and that this motion be circulated to our neighboring municipalities, Nelson Township and MPC Black.
Might I suggest, Ms. Leach, that the amendment just be that paragraph 4 be deleted?
Okay.
The rest of it would stand on its own.
But deleting paragraph 4 without making any change to the next paragraph doesn't include the edible garden plantings, only the garden plots, which are two different ways of providing access to the community.
Graham suggests removing that.
We just wanted to kill the word immediately. Just the one word.
Yes, and we want to make sure that staff's reporting back on it. So
Yeah.
if I may,
Sure.
that we just include and edible garden plantings in municipal parks and public spaces. Thank you.
No, or do you want to read it again, or it's up to you?
Yes, please.
Thanks.
Therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to report back to council with recommendations for establishing a long-term community garden plot program and municipal garden plantings in municipal parks, including potential partnerships, funding opportunities, and best practices for implementation, and that the motion be circulated to neighboring municipalities in Nelson County and MVP Flag.
All those in favor?
Oh,
Sorry, Carrie?
sorry,
Oh.
Jeff wanted to.
Sorry, Jeff, you want to go ahead?
I was just gonna jump in here and rather than report back on a long-term, let's say partnership, long-term potential partnerships or garden plots, we switch that to a pilot project so that we can establish a pilot project, learn from the pilot project over the course of 2025, and then potentially next fall, next spring, next winter, we report back on a long-term plan. That would give staff the ability to gather all that information ahead of the April meeting. Lessons learned for 6 months.
agreeable to the mover of the amendment.
Are we standing by the vote?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Councilor Graham?
Can we call the vote again then, please?
Sure. So we're adding Jeff's good suggestion. Okay, all those in favor with amended as Jeff's suggestion? Opposed? And for other business, do we have any? I can move and seconder to proceed into close, please. Deputy Mayor, Councilor Griffin, thank you.
And on the motion reads, moved by Deputy Mayor Noel, seconded by Councilor Griffin, this was proposed in closed session at 8:06 p.m. in order to address the matter pertaining to financial information supplied and confidence of the municipality, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position of the person or the organization and labor relations and litigation affecting the municipality.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you.